Welcome, everyone. This is the Big Idea Podcast, sponsored by the National Association of Business Owners and Entrepreneurs. Today's guest is Jim Muehlhausen, who is the founder of CEO Focus and author of a number of books, one of which we're going to be talking about today. Jim, welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, glad to be here, Ron. Thanks for having me. So I am kind of that classic entrepreneur. Started a vending business in college because evidently business school wasn't enough, and decided to go to law school, which may have been a mistake. And about a semester in, realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I bought a franchise, grew that pretty well, never needed to practice law, never made a buck as a lawyer, and just have done a series of businesses since then. But I got involved when I owned a manufacturing company in a CEO roundtable, and really caught the fever of that. And then eventually that became what is now CEO Focus, because I believe in peer groups so strongly from my own experience as being a member of one.
You know, when you had mentioned this, I had forgotten all about this, but you had told us this before about being in a group. What was your experience? What benefits did you see as a user of these kind of CEO peer groups? What did you see was something that, you know, really made a difference to you in your business career?
I think you can point to, certainly you see the ahas, right? I mean, I'm sure that you've experienced, but I mean, I've saved marriages as a group leader. I've, saved partnerships. I've, ended partnerships that needed ending. We've helped people collect 8-figure checks for their businesses. Lots of really great things that happen that are the ta-das. But, I had some of those as well. For instance, I decided I wanted to sell my business, but I had combined a couple of different lines that just weren't a good fit for anybody but me. And it made the business unsellable. Nobody wanted it. They wanted this. We made brake calipers and drive axles, and nobody wanted the axles that got really competitive. And I just decided, okay, we don't want to be in the $25 axle business. It was $175 an axle when we started. 5 years earlier, it got down to $25. You're like, I don't even know if I can make this thing for $25, let alone sell it. Yeah. We need to get out of this business. But we had a lot of assets. We had a lot of customers. We had something valuable. And so with the help of, really, it was my facilitator as much as the group, gave me a way to sell that business in what I will call a non-traditional sense. It wasn't going to go. It needed to be sold to a competitor. It wasn't something that some rando off the street. You had to be in the rebuilding business to really want to do that. So I had a limited audience of competitors, and basically I just broke it into two businesses. Was part of it. And I actually struggled to get anyone to buy what was that axle business, because it was red water, something fierce. Mm-hmm. So I basically arbitraged it. I sold it in pieces. I sold the cores to this person. I sold the customer list to this person. I sold, the physical assets to this person, and did okay. I mean, I probably got what I would have got selling it as a bundle, but the mistake would have been I was on the track of, I'm going to sell this as a business. It is a business. Mm-hmm. Sellable. And so it took a fresh pair of eyes. That's what I learned from being in a group is that a fresh pair of eyes from someone that you have developed trust with, whether it be your group leader or your peers. And I had two, Chuck and Kevin. I'm still friends with both of them. They're still trusted advisors to me 20 years later. And I trust their business ability, and it's hard to find someone like that. Your next door neighbor's not that way. Your significant other's not that way. They care, but they can't be helpful. But someone that's walked the walk can be. And Chuck in particular, who were in a group, still gives me a kick in the knee. I would have never written a book, and I would have never given a single speech but for Chuck, because when I launched this, I had a partner, and he always did the presentations. And I remember Chuck said, you'll get a lot more out of these if you do it yourself. And I was like, well, I don't want to. And he basically told me, tough, do it anyway. And I respected his opinion, and he shoved me into effectively doing public speaking. And it's been fantastic but I owe him for that shove. And that's what you get from a group.
Yeah, that's a great story. And thinking of you being shy and not being in front of groups, it's hard for me to fathom that. So a lot has happened over time. So congratulations. I mean, you've got CEO Focus, which is a nationwide CEO peer group program in many states across the country, and you're an author of many books, one of which we're here for today to talk about. And that is, I'm going to switch and show a picture of the book, The 51 Fatal Business Errors and How to Avoid Them. Uh, this book, as you know, is the subject of workshops across the country. I've done workshops myself on the 51 fatal business errors, and it never fails to get to the core of business issues. I've never seen a book like this. It just works all the time. What was your inspiration behind doing this book?
Well, so when I first started, so I've actually kept track to, not loosely kept track. I think I've done 11,000 one-on-one coaching sessions in 19 years. And it didn't take 11,000 of them to start to see a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, the ones that resonated the most were the ones that, it could be called the 51 fatal business errors Jim made and how to avoid them. But it's much better title, not having my name and embarrassment in it. But you started to see these themes. Right. And I think I've always been able to take something that someone thought might have been specific and do what I call take it up a level. Right. It's really not about, like, for instance, a lot of times people say we can't hire good people. And that's almost never the problem. The problem is actually their margin, almost always. Right. Why can't you hire good people? You can't pay enough. Because you can't pay enough, you can't recruit quality talent. Why can't you pay enough? Because your margins are too thin. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's so. When you start to see things through that lens of of a broad lens, you start to see that these things are very common because a lot of them are psychological. They're about being a human being that is a business owner, not about I'm smarter than you, or I did this right or I did this wrong, or I'm stupid. It's called human nature makes it difficult to own a business. And it means that you're going to screw up certain stuff until you learn there's a pothole there and to drive around it. And I wrote the book to try to get people to avoid those potholes and not make those expensive mistakes that we call the school of hard knocks.
Correct. I hear all the time from business owners. I spent my life, my career, well, I'm going to say over 30 years, but it's, maybe even more than that, working with the business community. And I would say, in the small business community, and I'd say, companies that start around $1 million in revenue go up to about 30 million in revenue. That's been sort of my core for many years. And over again, you hear them say things like, I'm tired of going at this alone, or I'm tired of making mistakes over and over again. So both of those comments lead sort of directly back to the book. Can you just tell us a little bit about how do you solve those types of problems?
Well, I think the alone one, no, especially for guys, right? We want to go, it's lonely owning a business. It makes you seem weak. But we're all smarter with teammates, with mentors, with people that frankly we can just call up and bitch to every now and then. And then they can tell you, okay, now that you're done bitching, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to fix it? So I don't want to hear this bitching again. But just having a partner in crime can be very, very beneficial. The story that I love to tell that was one of the ahas of my group was my friend Kevin was giving me a hard time because I was kind of complaining about the operational thing. We grew pretty rapidly from 2 people to 50,
Mm-hmm.
and it was manageable up to 30 under what I call the octopus method. You just have 8 arms and you're kind of just doing everything and you're in the center of everything, and it worked okay. 20, 30 people. They got to 50. I needed a structure. I needed management. And in my group, they just kept hammering me for about 6 to 12 months. You need an operations manager. And I said, can't afford it. Can't afford it. We're growing so fast. It's eating cash. It's a thin margin business. Can't afford it. Can't afford it. Kevin says, you can afford it. You just don't know it. You're going to get all these benefits that you don't know. And I'm like, I just don't see, I was a CPA. I can run the numbers. This doesn't work to put at the time a $60,000 person on the payroll. And so he said, tell you what, I'm making about $1 million a year. I probably need to work 3 days a week. I'm going to come and be your operations manager for 2 days a week. No charge. You're my friend. And there's a guy that's really smart, really good operation manager, has a great business in, he's in the calibration business. So he understood manufacturing pretty well. And he had a whole bunch of rules. Another day, I'll tell you all the horrible rules he made me agree to, like stay the hell out of it. And you're going to do whatever we say, regardless of what it is, was basically the rules. And he came in and played that operations manager to demonstrate to me how important it would be to do it. And boy, did I fall on the sword, letting him do stuff that I would not only would not have done, but I don't know if it was a good idea or not. But I had promised I'm going to do whatever you say.
Yeah, the having others to take a look at what you're doing. That's part of the peer group format strategy, and not having to go at it alone. I mean, can you imagine today with all the technology that's changing at such a rapid pace, and you're looking for a new payroll provider or a new ERP system for your company or new accounting system? How great would it be to have others that you can just say, hey, I'm thinking about Great Plains accounting. Has anybody got experience with it? And that one guy in the back says, and this isn't Great Plains. I'm just using them as an example. But somebody said, oh, it's too expensive implementation. How great would it be to know someone else's experience with some of the problems that you have? And that to me is sort of a core benefit of having these groups. And what's so nice about the 51 errors is, and I always have it on my desktop here, but one of the great things about it is that you go to this book and you can bring up any of these errors, and you get half the people say, yeah, I do that today. So it's having that feedback, but this works hand in hand with your CEO focused peer groups. It's a beautiful process. What came first for you, the CEO focused process, peer groups, or the book?
I had the groups first because that was what enabled me to get,
That was the
all the stuff
background.
that I've done is really just learning from business owners, but a lot of times it's bits and pieces. I mean, what they kind of do is throw me 450 pieces of a 500 piece puzzle all jumbled up and not put together.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'll take that raw material and I always have to add pieces. Okay. And so when you add the pieces, get them aligned and turn it into, a system, something that someone other than you can use, because we all have these things that work for us. But taking it from working for you to working for somebody else is a pretty big chasm. And that's, what had to happen with the book. And it was a multi-year process. But I remember I just started writing down things that I saw one person, having a challenge with.
Mm-hmm.
And then, taking the time to write up, and how the book is structured, you kind of got problem, solution, and then a real life example. And to me, it's that real life example that matters, because that's what business owners learn from is, here's what Sally did to either avoid this, fix this, make her business better because of this dynamic that is experienced in that particular area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly powerful. Now, just as we come to the end of this, give us an idea. People are looking at this and seeing the book. You can get it on Amazon. How would you recommend a business owner or someone who wants to be a business owner who picks up this book? How would you suggest that they use it?
Well, I've heard a lot of weird stories. One of my favorites was a gentleman. I had done a seminar in Denver, I think, and he called me a couple of months later and he said, I have my assistant bookmark one of the errors every Monday and put it on my desk so that I just am constantly, reviewing it. I think, you and I have learned that you can read a book, but if you don't do anything about it, it's just a mental exercise. And business owners are pretty passionate about wanting their businesses to be better than they currently are. And the good news about owning a business is everyone's business, yours, mine, all of our clients' businesses can in fact be better. There's never an end to the upside. And so the real, what I want in every book that I've written is that it be at what I'll call actionable content. And that's why you have the success stories. It's why you have a solution. It's like, here's what you need to do,
Right.
to rectify this, or to avoid this from being a problem, or to make your business better. But my contention would be, go through the book, and when you get something that you can work on, maybe just throw a Post-it in there and get to work on that particular issue, slay it. Okay. And now your business is better, and you can enjoy the benefits of that before you move on to the next one.
There's an old saying that you've heard, I've heard, but the question is, can you eat an elephant? And the answer is yes, you can, but you do it one bite at a time. What's nice about the 51 Errors book is I can skim through it, and you can see I usually have these bookmarks. So when I'm talking to my clients, I'll often just say, wait a minute, and pull right. And I say, you do have one of these books, don't you? And the client will say, yeah, you gave me one. I go, look at error number 42, and let's go through it. It really gives you something. You see it. It's clearly written, and you know what? I got to do something about that. There's no hiding behind, oh, maybe tomorrow. Is if you have one of these, and actually you're more than 51, you've added a few extra in the back of the book. But if you've got, and I know every business owner has most of these, but if you've got one that's particularly important to you, take it out and do what you say, and work on that, and make that better. And then that's the first bite of the elephant. That's working on your business rather than working in your business. And it's just amazing. A little bit of time each month, every month, just working on your business. After a while, you finish the elephant. You get somewhere. So thank you for inspiring the business owners in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. This has been a great source of joy for the business community. I've hosted many workshops based on this, and people just love the book. I think you've hit on a real core of being a business owner and what not to do, and that's pretty important. So I want to thank you very much for being on the Big Idea podcast for the National Association of Business Owners and Entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, Ron.